So, have a blessed day, brothers and sisters. Going for a walk. It has finally cooled down in Texas, so I like to sometimes do a video while I'm walking, right? So I'm gonna talk about the origins of the white man, right? Immediately attacked by dogs here. Oh, 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 oh. All right. So, you know, when I first became a Christian and I read the whole Bible, you know, I knew the Bible had to be true, right? I experienced the love of the Father and my journey started. But the mistake I made is that I thought I knew it all, because now I believed, I felt the love of the Father, right? And I read the Bible, so now I thought I knew it all. So unbelievers always approach me, right, old friends, and they always try to refute me, and they always go to the Genesis story, and they ask me, Chris, do you believe that the entire globe is only 6,000 years old? And I said, yes, because that's what the Bible says. At least I thought that is what the Bible said. But I did not let him refute me that the Bible is false, right? I trusted that the Word of God is true. But I realized that even though the Bible is true, it was my understanding that was still not matured. So when you go to Sunday school and you have all these picture books about Genesis, these are all fables, right? And if you're honest and you read Genesis like a child, yeah, you're gonna go astray, right? And it is very important for us to understand that the Bible is about the genealogy of Adam, right? They have hidden that fact from us. Do you know that only the children of Adam, which was not the first man, are ever called Adamites? Right? No other peoples on this planet or flat earth is ever called an Adamite. But the King James and all the other English versions have taken away any distinction the Bible talks about Adamites and Enosh and Ish. All these Hebrew words, they all translated it as man, right? For example, let us create man in our image, right? The Hebrew is not talking about humanity, right? What your pastor teach you. Genesis is talking about Adam, Adamites, right? So we know for sure that this world is much older than only 6,000 years, right? Because we lack understanding of Genesis and we read it like a child, right? So who are the white men? Right? And why is this so important? Well, we know that all over the world, white men were already all over the world thousands and thousands of years ago, long before God created the single man or formed the single man, Adam, right? And then the enemy has taken away all this history, right? And I believe that in the Library of Alexandria, which was named after the Greek Alexander, right? It was still Greek, right? They burned it down. And they burned all history down because they want you to believe that all humanity was created 6,000 years ago, or we came from apes, right? Hiding the truth and taking away the power which is in us. That's why so many Christians have a form of godliness but deny the power thereof, right? So There's nothing new under the sun. Things happen over and over again. What was the problem? When you look at modern day America, you can tell how Judah in the first century looked like. It was a multicultural thing. The Hebrew faith was mixed up with Canaanite beliefs, Babylonian beliefs, right? All kinds of people walking around calling themselves Judeans, right? I hope you still can hear me. But if we look, I watched the Robert Zephyr video today. Go to his channel, it's an awesome video. And he confirms so many things that I also believe, right? That, for example, they made Atlantis into a fairy tale. But it makes so much sense. And there is still literature out there who speaks about it. And who were the Atlanteans? These were the tall, blonde people who had an understanding about the spiritual, right? It was almost like they were the Genesis 1 creation where God said, let us make man in our image, right? They had supernatural powers, right? They built stuff. They knew how to build certain structures that gave them powers and alignment with the spiritual, right? But according to the stories, they started to intermix with mortal man, and that was the beginning of the destruction. And in the last ice age, some 12,000 years ago, Atlantis disappeared, right? But we also know that there were a lot of Atlanteans who fled that island, right? They went into North Africa, South America, right? China. That's why we find pyramids perfectly aligned with the celestial bodies all over the world. This is not a coincidence, right? We find pyramids all over the place. We find all kinds of structures that are aligned with the stars. These people still had knowledge and they built structures in other places. That's why they are also the ones who built the pyramids in Egypt, right? So they want to take all this knowledge away, but they started to intermix with all kinds of mortal man, right? That took away their divine connection, but the knowledge of the esoteric stuff remained, right? So what happened in before the Second World War, right? Because we have learned that Hitler just woke up one day and decided to hate Jews and then murder them all. But what was really going on, right? Because even before the war started, the Germans gathered scientists to recover the origins of the white people, right? They had expeditions all over the world. They looked at different races, they looked at different buildings. They were looking outside of the story of Adam. They wanted to go way back, right? But of course, the Marxists, who in the end won the war, demonized everything that the Germans tried to do, right? So, nothing is new under the sun. We're heading to destruction again. We are called by his name, have mixed our societies and even our flesh with other peoples, right? And the Bible even speaks about that some of the sons of Israel made it with the Canaanites and they became broken vessels. They could hold no longer water, right? And this is one of the reasons. Ooh! Stepped on the dog here. This is one of the reasons men drink, right? Yes, on a superficial level, men drink if they lack respect, right? Because men thrive on being respected. But there is a deeper level why European men drink, and that is to fill up an emptiness, because they no longer feel a deep connection to who they are, their culture, their God, their ancestors, the forefathers. They have no longer that connection. And when you look at black people in, for example, the Netherlands, how come that they seem more accepted and integrated than black people here in America? That is because the Netherlands always try to be the best kid in class, right? Trying to make everyone feel happy, right? And they absorb the Marxist agenda like a sweet pie, right? After the Second World War, strangers started coming in to help rebuild the nation, right? And it never ended. And now Christians, Dutch people believe that borders are just man-made. God has nothing to do with that, right? We're all humans, right? So these Marxists have created a society where everyone is equal, even though you're a son of God or not a son of God, and they took away your divine nature. So on a very superficial layer, you can coexist with mortal man. But it's just a thin veneer. The only thing this multicultural thing works in Europe for so many people is because they have no longer a connection. They lost their soul. They don't know who they are. And on a very superficial level, they try to coexist. Not understanding that this thing is bringing on their own destruction. Right? Because we are sons of God. Right? And our forefathers understood this. Right? And they built all this for us. And God's instructions is to not leave a mess for your children. Right? How can you do that? Listen to Christ. Listen to Christ. Be a set apart people. Right? But now we have been indoctrinated that it is racist and supremacy and bigots, and we have learned all these words, and our destruction is imminent, right? Because the moment you look under a thin veneer of tolerance, you are deemed as an extremist, right? So we have to start reading the Bible through a different lens. The Bible is not about the creation of this universe. It's about the generations of Adam, right? And who are these generations? Africans, Chinamen too? No. The Bible tells us who are of the generations of Adam. It even gives us the entire genealogy, right? It was only one people, right? So why did God form the man Adam if there are already white men around? Well, try to find in the West a white man who can till the ground, till the spiritual ground. Right? Try to find it. Well, there are still a few left, thanks to the fact that we have a high priest in heaven now. But I can imagine that before God formed Adam, that there was hard, there was no one left, right, God could use to build his kingdom. Most of them were already mixed up, right, and the others lost also the fact who they were, right. The serpent is a very old creature. He has deceived our people for a long time, and he's doing it again, all right. But why do you think that it was the white man who went into South America, into China, right? They controlled the entire world. They brought civilizations all over the world, religion all over the world, philosophy all over the world. How come that 6,000 years ago they already have big cities, right? How come that technology came so quickly And every generation had it better and better. Look at the American settlers, right? The East Coast had already big cities, right? Washington, Philadelphia, New York, right? But the settlers thought, we want more, we want to expand. So they went west with nothing but a carriage and a horse. They had no air conditioning, nothing. They went into Texas. But they trusted in God. They didn't leave that to the children. Look where we live now. Look how it is possible for us to even live comfortably in places like Texas. It's because of our forefathers. But we have taken everything for granted now. And now, according to the Bible, beasts are coming in, eating of the children's bread, have no fear of God, no remorse of your destruction, right? They just come in and feast, the Bible says, right? And we letting them feast and take the whole bread. Soon we won't even have the crumbs no more, right? And if people say, well, you know, every race has that sense that you have to give a better life to your children. So if that is true, how come that, for example, the African race, the sub-Saharan African race, for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, lived a certain way, picked berries, and eat dead carcasses, right? Even ate each other. How come that they never developed? How come that when the Europeans went into the sub-Saharan Africa only a few hundred years ago, these people still lived the same way as they did 100,000 years ago? These people never had the spirit of developing and making things better and better and better, right? So the whole Mediterranean, Persia, all the way to China, used to be dominated by Aryan white men, right? Even the religion of Buddha. Buddha was a white man. That's why he's always depicted with blue eyes. Even though people in different Oriental countries make him in his own image, right? You have a Japanese Buddha, Chinese Buddha, Tibetan Buddha. They all look a bit different, but they all have blue eyes, right? But God chose one man to build his kingdom. From Tao, Abraham will come a nation and a multitude of nations. Right? Well, that first nation was formed called Israel. Right? They split up. Right? The northern 10 tribes left. They ended up in Europe. Right? And eventually also the southern kingdom of Judah, the remaining Israelites, joined themselves into the Roman Empire in Europe and became part of the new covenant. And look how quickly Europe developed. These people sailed the oceans, right? They came to parts of the world where people still walked around naked, right? They still were living like animals. Well, have you ever heard one story about that they found an island with white men still walking around naked with spears? No, there are no such stories. Right? And Europe developed. They became Christian. But it wouldn't be perfect right away, because things are not perfect. Right? According to the book of Revelation, there will be beasts coming out of the sea, right? Beast systems. But at least over the last 2,000 years, our ancestors had the law written in their heart to be a separate people, right? It was only because the Edomites, who no longer had a country, who have no place to go, they wanted to eat of the children's bread in Europe. But the Europeans did not want them, because Europe was created through the Spirit of Christ. So they did not want people of Antichrist in the nations, right? Hence, things happened like the Russian Revolution, which was not a Russian Revolution, it was a Bolshevik Revolution. Who were these Bolsheviks? Yes, they were funded and led by Edomites, right? Marxists. They said, these sons of God, they have all these blessings. We have to take away their identity as sons of God and make us all equal. Make the sons of God and the accursed people live in harmony together, right? That's also what Judeo-Christianity is. Antichrist and the Spirit of Christ, right? Trying to live in harmony. Well, God never told us such a thing, right? And that is one of the reasons so many Germans said, you know what, we want to have our inheritance back, right? Germany was so poor and so under the yoke of this banking system, right, that they said, we're going to take away this banking system. We are European men, right? And that's why these scientists try to recover the true origins of the white man, right? Because Germany, you needed a wheelbarrow full of money to get a loaf of bread, and by the time you came to the shop, you needed already 2 wheelbarrows, right? And cities like Berlin were just dens of devils, right? The first transgenderism, open transgenderism was there. There was an Edomite who did the first operation to rebuild a man into a woman. It was an Edomite. They brought porn, all kinds of things, child prostitution. And Berlin was just like Sodom and Gomorrah, right? But how dare you take that away, right? So we had hundreds of Hollywood propaganda movies showing us that we can never ever stand up for who we are no more, right? And now you see so many white people, you know, addicted to all kinds of drugs, addicted to alcohol, because they have no longer that sense of belonging. They lost their family. They can't stand up for who they are no more. They are forced to coexist with other beings who are not called by God. Right? So there's no more a deep sense of who you are. Right? There's no more connection to that God. It's all gone. But the good news is that God is raising up man through the Spirit, because they're living in the last time. This is it. It's not gonna get any better. In the end, it will get better before it gets better, right? I think God lets this go on till the point that people have no choice but to cry out to God again, right? But God has been long-suffering and patient for a long time, and it's only getting worse and worse. But most Christians, they prefer to listen to Marxism that entered the church, right? All equal, all gods are equal, right? More and more Oprah Winfrey doctrine that all religions lead to the same God, right? So what's the problem if London has been taken over by Islam, right? In the end, we're all God's children, right? No, the Bible is about the generations of Adam. Adam. That means to be of a ruddy complexion, able to blush, to show blood in the face. Now who are these people? Right? Not sub-Saharan Africans. I've never seen one of them blush. Right? Yes, and they can have the lingo. They can sing the songs. Right? Many black pastors deceiving everybody because of these false teachings. But then one day they will hear, get away from me. I never knew you. Yeah, but didn't we? I was a pastor. I talked about you all the time. Jesus said, get away from me, I never knew you. You worker of iniquity. Well, Christians think that just means that people secretly behind the preaching did other stuff, right? But God said in the Old Testament, and this is what Jesus was quoting, God said, of all the peoples, you are the only one I know. That was Jesus was quoting. So these people are not redeemed, right? They are not washed, right? No matter what they do, no matter how much they preach, cast out demons in his name, they are not redeemed. They are workers of iniquity. And Jesus doesn't know them. Right? And you're losing power. Right? Even Christians have no longer a deep connection with God and with their forefathers who gave us all this through the Spirit of Christ. All our blessings are being taken for granted. Right? So, hey guys, here, I got here too. Hello. Who are you? Why are you following me? Yeah, why are you following me? Oh, you good girl. Yeah. Oh. So, again, I'm not saying you have to mistreat anybody, right? But you have to start developing the truth and a love for the truth. And that will bring you into a deeper understanding and a deeper love for what God did through Adam. You are part of that lineage, right? We are chosen to build this kingdom, right? And not by the law of Moses, even though we mess up all the time. Even now we mess up all the time. Look at our nations, look at the state of our nations. The promise to Abraham stands. That was the fate of Abraham, that from him will come a nation, a multitude of nations. They have been formed, right? And these nations are the camp of the saints. But the camp of the saints is at this moment surrounded, right? And the devil has deceived children of God, dancing and singing and eating with the beasts of the field, right? How many of these beasts know this? Right? How many of these beasts truly have a fear of God? Right? Well, there is a part in the Bible where beasts also can pray to God. Right? There's a story about a Canaanite woman who was blessed by Jesus. But how? But she humbled herself. Alright? The meek shall inherit the earth. Meek does not mean the pushovers shall inherit the earth. Sit back, turn the other cheek. Right? If beasts are trying to control you, that's not what Jesus was talking about. The meek means the teachables, the ones who are humble to be taught and to be led by the Spirit in truth. All truth. Right? So, our story goes back at least 12,000 years, because before the Ice Age there's hardly anything we know, right? Yes, there have even been structures found that are even way older than that, but it's very hard to find any evidence about that, right? But this is it, guys, right? Many of our brethren and sisters even choosing the side of others over us, right? They're so concerned with other creatures, right, that they don't even care about their own blood no more, right? So, God bless everybody, and see you next time.